Hey fiber friends, welcome to episode 19 of the Botanical Knitter vlogcast.
But I lie awake, wondering why.
I'm Emily, I'm a knitter, spinner, sewist, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can find me on Instagram as The Botanical Knitter and on Ravelry as Botanical Knitter. Everything I talk about today is going to be in the description below, and you can also check out Ravelry for project page info. I'm usually pretty decent about updating things and including final yardage, size, and needle because I will inevitably forget to talk about it during this episode. It has been a while since I've recorded. I feel like I always say that, so maybe I should just embrace that. Like, my norm is about 3 weeks. I will record and upload every 3-ish weeks. It is October 3rd. Spooky season is here. If you've watched previous episodes, you know that I love Halloween. I love Halloween. My house is Halloween decorated. I did that back in September. I put out the outside decorations at the start of the fall equinox on, was it the 22nd? I should remember because I have a knit along that corresponds with it. But everything is fall and cozy and spooky and Halloween. I'm so excited for it. September was a busy month for me. I was in Washington, D.C. for 8 days for work, like 8 consecutive days, which was a long time to stay at a hotel. I got a ton of knitting done, both in like finishing projects, but also starting new projects. So this trip, I did have time to go to a couple of art museums. I went to the National Museum of Women in the Arts, which was a paid museum, and saw some very cool things, and I'll include footage at the end. But my favorite was, can you hear that screeching? I wanted to film outside. Sorry, I think I'm gonna be squirrely today. So we're all just agree. We're not gonna judge each other. It's gonna be fine. That was a pinky promise. I was gonna film outside, but then there was so much plane noise. But then I'm worried it's still happening now because I have the windows open. But it's so beautiful out. All right, we're gonna deal with it. It's fine because maybe I'll do this. Okay, I don't know what that did. Okay, anyways. The second museum I visited in Washington, D.C. was the Renwick. I went to the Renwick Gallery, which was free. It was right across the street from the White House, which was fun. And they had an exhibit on women in fiber arts. And it was all about how women challenged expectations around them about making. So weaving was only, the myth, right, was that weaving was only to be made for wall hangings that were prim and proper and could be sold in department stores. But then this artist really challenged that by playing around with warp and weft and textures in 3 dimensions. And I loved the gallery. I spent probably 2 hours there, and it wasn't a huge exhibit, but they had an accompanying podcast that talked a little bit about each artist and how they challenged norms around making, how they were ahead of their time when it comes to fiber arts, and then like the politics of fiber arts and how fiber arts is connected to social justice. It was really cool. I'll link to that below. Would recommend listening to it. Each one was about 12 to 13 minutes, and they're broken up into different artists, so totally something you can sit and listen to one at a time or all together. But I spent 2 hours in the exhibit, and then I knit when I was at the exhibit. And at one point I was sitting in one of the rooms and I was on a bench knitting, and one of the security guards in the museum came up and started talking to me. And I was actually filming myself, just my hands, for vlog footage, as one does when you have an Instagram, right, and a YouTube channel, whatever. But he came over and I captured the whole conversation, and I nervous giggle the whole time just because I was so touched by the conversation and by what he said to me that I was a little overwhelmed. He was so kind. I was just working on a hat, and I'll show you the hat in a moment, but was like, what are you doing? Tell me more about it. Wow, that's so interesting you do this. And I was telling him I talked about Teresa, my friend has a sheep farm, and this is really cool for me to see that. And he, at the end, he was like, I'll never forget this. And it was really special. And again, fiber is all about making community and connections, and that was perfect. So spent time in DC, did a lot of knitting, and was gonna film, and then I was like, oh, I don't have enough to talk about, which is a hilarious joke because I always have a billion things to talk about, as seen by this pretty wordy introduction. So let's get going. Let's talk about what I'm wearing. So today I'm wearing a short sleeve love note. This is the second love note I knit. It's a pattern from Tin Can Knits. This was a size medium, or a 3 or a 4, whatever is like equates to a medium. And I went down probably 2 needle sizes for this, and I used a fingering weight, which was the Sorcerer's Stone from Explore Knits, held with a mohair from, I don't remember the mohair. It's one of those pocketbook friendly lower cost mohairs. And this was really before I realized that mohair ain't it for me, that I get a little itchy when I wear mohair. So I do have a white shirt on underneath. But besides the needle modification, I knit it to pattern, and then just obviously did short sleeves with a 1x1 twisted rib on the cuff because I love a twisted rib. I'm wearing this today in honor of Professor Pearl's Love Note Love Knit Along. I think it is the 4th Love Note Knit Along she's doing from October 1st to December 1st, potentially. I'm going to link to Nicole's podcast so you get all the correct details. This was how I met Nicole. I had started watching her podcast when she was fairly new to podcasting and joined the Love Note Love, and remember doing a Zoom and talking with her and being like, oh my God, she knows who I am. And now she's my friend, which is, we're people, right? Like, we are just people trying to connect with each other and share the thing we love. But the Love Note Love brought us together as friends, and I'm grateful for that. So I did my first love note with her first knit along. So I have plans to do another love note, which would be my 5th love note. I'm not quite sure yet what yarn I want to do. If I want to do a DK held single, which I haven't done yet. So I would like to maybe have that for like a nice stitch definition, or what, because I'm going to Rhinebeck. I am unexpectedly going to Rhinebeck. I am helping my friend Susie of the wonderful Fiber MacGyver with her yarn booth at Rhinebeck, New York Sheep and Wool, the Saturday and Sunday of Rhinebeck weekend, which is I think the 19th and 20th. That sounds right. Totally unexpected, so excited. So I'm planning on working in the booth, but on Friday I will go to India Untangled and Cake later in the afternoon, and so I want to maybe save some yarn shopping for a love note. So I don't want to keep that. I want to keep that as an option because I know the love note I could just like cruise through that one pretty quickly. But yeah. So this is Love Note Tin Can Knits. I'm wearing it with just a ready-to-wear skirt from Target, a white t-shirt underneath, nothing else super special. But it's cold today. It's like 60, so it was a fun chance to bust out a sweater. Finished object time. I'm gonna start with spinning because it's right here on top of my bucket. I finally finished a spinning project. I took a little bit of a sabbatical from my wheel, and my friend Ariana especially has been spinning up a storm. We have an Instagram chat, and she keeps sending all these gorgeous photos of the spinning projects she's working on or have finalized. And I was like, maybe I should spin. So I finished this languishing spin. I started this in July as part of Tour de Fleece, which we know was a flop for me, which is fine. This was originally 8 ounces of Falkland fiber roving from Little Fern Fibers. The colorway was eucalyptus, and every braid was a little different. And so I spun this by making little nests. So I broke up each of the roving 4 ounces into little bits, probably anywhere from like half an ounce, I think, and then smaller. So nothing was bigger than a half an ounce. And I just spun and would grab at random. I did mostly worsted spun on this because I'm still more comfortable spinning worsted and not doing like a long draw or worsted spun. And then I plied them together. So I had lots of bobbins. I think I ended up with about 550 yards of a fingering to sport-ish, maybe light DK. But I think it's really pretty. I hope that's focused. I have no plans for this yet. It's got little pops of purple, but it's mostly like a beautiful cream and sage, which, hello, green. If you have pattern recommendations, let me know. I'm open to holding it with Suri, open to using it as color work. I would say let's put it in like the sport camp, knowing it flexes to sport or DK. But it's like mostly consistent, and I'm pretty proud of that. So that's my first finished object, and it's the first spinning thing I finished in a really long time. My second finished object was a project that I finished just before I went to Washington, D.C. I shared it as a whip on my last podcast episode, and it's the Alpine Bloom hat by Caitlin Hunter or Boylan Knitworks. I used Spincycle dyed in the wool. Yeah, that's the sport weight one. The colorway is Valley Girl, and it naturally did this beautiful fading. Sometimes I feel like you have to kind of chop up pieces and rejoin the yarn, but this did it all on its own. It was leftover that I had from my Oogie Boogie mitts back last fall. And then the black yarn is a yarn from Teresa at Get Bentz. It was a yarn from the end of 2023, I think, or October-ish. And was it Cheviot or BFL? She told me this, and it's in my Instagram post, but my phone is there. Teresa told me. I'll put it in the description. It's something, but it has then a little stellina in it for some sparkle. I don't know if you'll be able to see the sparkle. I'll just like rotate it slowly. Maybe you will. But it's pretty subtle, and I love it. I'm not going to put my hat on because I've got like hair clips in holding up my bangs today. But it's definitely a little bit of a tighter fit on me, and I stretched it. And this was really, that's Ralph. Rude. I'm in his space. No, go. Where'd he go? Okay, that's Ralph. Sorry. He loves my knitting projects. This is the time of the afternoon where he usually sits with me, and I'm in his chair. He likes to perch on the chair and look outside the window. So please welcome Ralph to the podcast. Very special guest. Anyways, Alpine Bloom hat. It's a little snug, so I will probably gift it or donate it. But it's beautiful, and it served as kind of a swatch for my Alpine Bloom tee, which I'll show you in the whip section, even though I didn't use the same yarns. So it's not really a swatch, but at least it familiarized me with the motif and kind of helped me begin to think about my tension. Anywho, so that's my second finished object. The accessories continue because my next finished object is the Sophie scarf from Petite Knit. I used 3 strands of Suri from Fiber MacGyver, her Suri silk, in the colorway Marine for this. I modified the pattern by only increasing to 18 stitches, and the increases stopped here, and then I just knit as long as I wanted it, and then I started the decreases again here. Susie has had this as a similar piece in her booth as a sample forever, and every show I see it and I grab it and I put it on and I try it. Hers is in the really bright coral pink, and I love it. So I've seen it used as a hair bow. I was kind of playing it around with just like styling it this way and just very simply, like, there it is. It's just like a little half scarf tie around moment. I thought that was kind of cute. And then of course the traditional wrap too, where we just do the 1.5 and then do like a casual little drapey thing. I'm trying to remember. I know my project page says how many inches I knit it to before I started the decreases. This is definitely over 5 feet long, and I did stretch it a bit when blocking, but 3 strands of Suri went a long way, and I still had leftovers. So I still probably have at least 5 grams of leftover Suri even after knitting this much. And I'll say that I did end up taking 3 strands and using my cordsmith. This is my sewing cabinet, the Martha Washington cabinet that I keep things in. Here's my cordsmith. It's the Kamala Harris's Brat one, which of course I had to get. And so I used this for the first time, which was difficult with 3 strands of Suri, I'm not gonna lie. But it resulted in a really long I-cord that I tied into a bow and used with a hair clip to make a cute little bow moment, since bows are kind of the trending accessory right now. So I was pleased with that. So this one I started in DC after finishing a couple of other projects, and really knit this in probably 5 days because it was good airplane. Though 3 balls of Suri on a plane, I was like, please don't let me be that video where the yarn goes all the way down or all the way back and people have to pass it up. But crisis averted. It was fine. My next finished object is the Musselburgh hat by Ysolda Teague. Here it is, still in the tube. And I haven't woven in the ends yet because I'm debating if I want to just fold it in on itself and weave in the end from the bottom and tie it so it on its own stays in the shape always. Since it's the same yarn either way, the decreases and increases look pretty similar. There's no need to like favor one side or the other. I've done this for my dad and then it keeps its shape, which then defeats kind of the point, but it's still, I like knitting this because I can read and knit this at the same time. I think I had shown this on the last episode when it was still in whip form. I definitely knit it longer than the pattern calls for. I was getting about 6.5 stitches as gauge, and I knit an adult medium, and I used a size 2.5 US needle. Moving forward, I need to do an adult large. I know I like a slouchier hat with a little bit more room, and so I just need to remember that. I take project notes for a reason, like pay attention to them, girl. The yarn is Cassian from Fangirl Fibers. I know I went off on like talking about ACOTAR and all those other books that are glorious. I love this colorway. I think the pops of copper in it are really beautiful. I also love the way it's pooled in spots. Like, I just think that's so nice. So anyways, Fangirl Fibers, Emily did a beautiful job dyeing this. I love her yarn. This was 400 yards and I used up all but maybe 3 or 4 grams of the skein. So I really wanted to use all of it. And then I dumped the leftovers in my scrap dish that I will use to make yarn next year. My last finished object is a project I don't have with me, and that is the Sheep Camp sweater by Jennifer Berg. If you've watched previous episodes, you know that this was a sweater that my colleague won in a silent auction that my work had, that I donated, that I would knit you a custom sweater. And it took me a year to finish it because my colleague is so gracious, but I finished it. And I finished it in DC. I used up every scrap of the main color, which was from Treehouse Knits Ladybird Lake. I was really anxious about knitting it and having enough for the measurements, but I really knit it to the measurements that I was given. So I'm hopeful it fits. I haven't heard back yet. Which I'm hoping isn't a sign that it didn't fit, but I did tell them, I was like, I will re-knit you this, like, and I will do it more promptly, I swear. But I just really want to make sure that they're happy with the finished sweater, but it was gorgeous. I really loved the stark contrast between this really teal color, the cream of the bare yarn. I thought it looked nice. When I was in DC, I ended up meeting with Katie and Zoe, who are Instagram friends that we were able to all meet in person together at Zombie Knit Apocalypse. And then they both live in the DC area. And so we had a meetup where we met at a brewery, we knit at a brewery, and then we went and got dinner. So much fun. But Zoe saved me by bringing me in a plastic bag some wool wash. So I blocked the sweater in the sink. And then I obviously didn't have any blocking pads or pins, so I just stretched it out on the towel, and it worked out. it was beautiful. I tried it on and I really loved how it fit me, and the measurements were similar to like what would fit me. So I'm hoping they love the fit, but that felt so good to get that done. I've talked about this, like my anxiety manifests as procrastination, and like the paralysis of wanting to knit the perfect sweater and the fear of not knitting a perfect sweater for this person was so anxiety inducing. The ironic thing is that I submitted a custom sweater again this year to the silent auction. So it sold, and it sold for $550, which is wild. And so I'm in the process of working with the person to figure out the new winner this year, what kind of sweater they want, style, color, all of that. So and because it's a person I don't know, I have to get it done on time, which is like the pressure I needed. Whereas my colleague before was like, please do it when you want to. So yeah, it's a fun way to raise money for the mission, and exciting. And I hope people love their sweaters. I curled my hair today, and I can't tell if this curly piece is gonna look crazy on camera or if it's just gonna have like a nice little texture moment. We'll find out, won't we? Meanwhile, check out this mug. So this mug is a custom mug that Wander On Pottery made for me, and I'm obsessed. Obviously it says the Botanical Knitter, which, like, look at her pretending like she's something, with leaves, and then the thumb on the handles, also a leaf, and then the glazing is so beautiful. Pretty smitten. I'm just drinking coffee that brewed around 6 this morning, and I'm reheating for a post-work caffeine boost before I have to clean the house. So I will say, Wander On Pottery has donated to the Knit Along. So if you participate in the Sweater Weather Knit Together, crochet counts. I'm just a knitter and use knitting terms, but like crocheters, you're more than welcome. Like, please join. Anywho, this would be a mug or a donated item, a mug, a dish, maybe some beautiful ceramic stitch markers will be mailed to a selected winner. So you have a chance at getting one of these mugs. This is my second mug from her, and love it. Should we talk about the Sweater Weather Knit Together? Because we're talking about it right now. Let's do it. So the Knit Along, Crochet Along, Make Along is really informal. I created a Ravelry group for the Botanical Knitter Vlogcast. And then within that group, I created a couple of discussions or threads on the Knit Along. One to post finished objects, one for like pattern inspo, and one for just chatter. What are you working on? What are you making? And getting inspiration from each other. The whole point of this is to have fun, no stressing out. Whips count, short sleeve sweaters count, cardigans count, color work, lace, cables, whatever you want to work on, a vest, I don't care. Let's just knit together, let's make together, and then build community. So post on Instagram using hashtag sweaterweather K2TOG, Sweater Weather Knit Together, and tag me in your finished object posts. Tag me in any of them, really, because I love to see them. Because Instagram is dumb, as we all know, and has changed kind of that hashtag tracking ability. So tag me in things so I see them. Also post in the Ravelry thread, and I will pick winners in October, in December, and then after the Knit Along ends, the last day is the day of the winter solstice. So 20, 21, 22, one of those days is the day to get all your entries in, and I'll post plenty of reminders, and I'll film before then. And I'll probably poll the winners live, not live, but during Vlogmas, because I plan to do Vlogmas this year. So you'll be able to watch as I'm drawing those names. I have prizes, so many prizes. Wander On Pottery, Get Bentz Farms, Muse 2320, Knitting Lizard, Sable and Stone Co., some stitch markers. Busy Bee Knits wants to donate some patterns, Bridget. I'm for sure missing people, and it's not intentional. It's just because I worked all day and my brain is a little flighty. But a generous amount of people have reached out and asked if they could donate, and I was like, yes, please, thank you. So all of that info is on Instagram. It's on the community page of my YouTube channel. More to come. but I'm really excited. So thanks if you're participating. Oh, and other knit-alongs happen. Like Jackie is hosting a really fun knit-along right now. Nicole is doing her Love Note Love. I am fine with you doubling up on those whips. Like, again, there's no rules. Let's just have fun. Sewing time. I have 4 finished sewing objects, which is, if you know my pace lately, it's a slowing down pace, but I think that's because I was gone for 9 days. The first thing I sewed, and I showed this, I think, on a podcast episode that I had finished it. Maybe I dropped in a picture, but here it is here. It's the Hinterland dress using Robert Kaufman linen. I purchased this linen from Lake's Makery, which is a fabric store in Minneapolis. And I saw this fabric and I had to have it. The orange and pink combo is very similar to the ranunculus that I knit last month. The colors clearly called to me. I knit this, I sewed this. I believe it's a size 12 or 14 top and then a size 10 skirt. Has pockets. I modified it by having no placket, so no button band. And I did the short version, which I have learned the suggested short length is it's not too short. Like if you do the fingertip test, I just passed the fingertips, but I like definitely feel like if I bend over, you might see something. I've debated about adding a little ruffle on the bottom to give it just a couple more inches of length, but I also think I'm just gonna let it be. This with like black tights, black opaque tights, leggings, and some ankle boots, or like my bloodstone boots with a cardigan over it. So cute. So yeah, Hinterland, love it. I plan to knit another, geez Louise, I plan to sew another one with a shorter length, but I'm gonna add a couple more inches. But I have a beautiful linen in mind. My next set of finished objects include another Ashton top from Helen's Closet, and then the bow boxer shorts from Matchy. These shorts are cute. They're wrinkled because I've worn them. This is fabric from Fabelism. It's a heavy cotton, 100% cotton. It gets like a little puckery as you wash it with this checked pattern, and I love it. I ran out of fabric. This might look familiar because I knit a Hinterland, a short sleeve long Hinterland with a full placket using this fabric. So I wanted to use up all my stash. So I made a dress, a tank, and shorts out of the fabric, and I still have a little bit of scrapping left over for potential quilted project bag. Another pair of Pomona pants from Anna Allen Clothing Co. And I talked about Pomona pants in the last episode, but let's talk about this fabric. I am obsessed. This might tell you what the fabric is from. I found some vintage Yves Saint Laurent. Look at me pretending to be fancy. YSL. It's spelled because I'm not French like Yves Saint Laurent, but it's Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent. Please ignore me. I took German. The French, they elude me. But it's vintage designer bed sheets. Moral of the story. And I am really thrilled with the pattern. I think it is so fun. I used the top of the bed sheets for the hem of the pants, and then also on the detail of the back pocket. So this is the Pomona pants. It's a super interesting construction. These are a size 14 in the Pomona pants. I modified it by shortening the front rise by 1 inch, and then I shortened the pant length by 2 inches, and they fit so much better. I was like, no, you can adjust the rise of your pants. You can cut fabric shorter. You can do that. And I did, and they fit great. So now I know size 14, shorter rise. It's going to be a dream. And they fit so well. I think I'll drop in some footage here of me walking around in them. They're pretty retro. Like, I recognize that. But like, even with a white, I wore them to Yarn Over, which is a fiber retreat and public market here in the Minnesota area. I wore them with, I think, a dark gray ranunculus and then some clogs, and I felt cute. That's all that matters, right? Is if you feel cute. It's whip o'clock. My first whip is really more of a half finished whip. I'm 90% done, and it is a pair of socks for my husband using the colorway Jack from Always Be Kind yarn. It's a self-striping yarn that I used black and green for the cuff and the toe. I just knit it in the round. This was one of those projects I started on my way to DC and finished soon after returning. It was perfect for knitting during sessions when I could listen, look, but then it kept my hands busy and kept me from fidgeting too terribly. I'll add there was a fellow knitter at a nearby table, and that was really fun to see. So anyways, I did 72 stitches on a US 1 to fit my husband's feet, and I will cut in an afterthought heel. I think I'm gonna do it in the bright green because it's so fun. But these were a really fun knit, and they'll be his Halloween socks because again, we love spooky season. And so along those lines, I have started Halloween socks for myself. And I started these before Summer Lee's October cuff, color work cuff came out, because you know I'm gonna knit myself a pair of those too. But these are the Sally colorway from Always Be Kind. So again, self-striping yarn. I love how these are knitting up. I've got my Sally and my Jack stitch markers. This is my version of 2 at a time, but these will be my socks. I cast on 66 stitches instead of 64. I find that when I knit in a tube in the round, and I'm especially not, like if I'm reading or watching TV, I knit tighter. And so I wanted to give myself a little extra room, but plan to do the same thing, but use black for the toes and the heels. And again, we'll do an afterthought heel instead of heel flap and gusset, because then I can just like cruise through these and they knit up so quick. And I don't mind an afterthought heel. I like the fit. So Chris will have Jack socks and I will have Sally socks. And those will be fun to wear because they will be, Halloween is on a Thursday and we are flying to Portland for Sacred Sheep that Thursday. So those plan to be like our travel socks, getting ready for a fiber festival. Hello Portland, it's Halloween. So excited. This, the socks are in my Knitting Nelly project bag. I love her bags. Like the quilted motifs are beautiful. I don't know how to quilt and I really admire, and she puts batting in them so it feels really nice and they're pretty sturdy. So those socks will be done by the time we head to Portland and we'll wear them on Halloween. The Summer Lee October colorwork cuff is a ghost pattern, super simple. So I plan to do like a little ankle sock for myself. My only dilemma, which is a great dilemma, is which color do I want to use? Do I want to do like an orange and a black or a black and a white, purple and white? I don't know. I have a bunch of single skeins and scraps that would be perfect for it. Or do I want to do more of like a whimsical ghosty sock? I don't know. My next whip is in my Barley Pearls bag. I ordered this new bag from Barley Pearls. I wanted to try out the drawstring bucket bag. I'm always talking about how much I love the snaps. I think I'm reformed and I think I love this bucket bag because it sits upright so nicely. I purchased it because, excuse me, please hold. I purchased this because I loved the fabric. We all know I'm having a gingham moment. We've seen that from my sewing projects, but I also love the skull Halloween-y pattern fabric. Some of you might know I was a violin performance major in undergrad, and so I think I especially loved this little violin person right here. So in my bag is my Alpine Bloom tee. I'm knitting this with Professor Pearl, and then we're also doing a Sacred Sheep knit along because Nicole, Jasmine, and I are all going to be at Sacred Sheep together, and Sacred Sheep, the Fiber Festival, is hosting its own knit along. I'm participating in the knit along by knitting a pattern from Caitlin Hunter, Boylan Knitworks. That's one of the rules, is yarn from a vendor or a pattern from somebody teaching a class. Here's mine. I love it, and I'm also a little anxious about the tension. Have you ever had those moments where you doubt yourself as a knitter, and as anything with life, when you doubt, I feel like you can see it, you can feel it if it turns out different. I'm also maybe just having a moment, which is very plausible. I had knit about a quarter of the way through the chart before I realized that my gauge was very off. I was knitting way too tight. So I ripped back and went up a needle size for the color work. Generally with Caitlin Hunter patterns, I have to go down at least a needle size. So I cast on with a 2. The stockinette section is in 3, and I'll switch back to 3. And then I did have to go to a 4 for the color work section. I know blocking will sort out a lot of the issues I'm having with this pattern, so I just need to be patient and trust the process. It looks fine, right? If I wanted something perfect, I would buy machine made, and even then it's not. It's beautiful. So the main color is yarn from Yarn Nouveau. It's a yak. Hi, Harry. Sorry if you can hear the clicking of the doggo. It's a yak silk blend base in the colorway Mulling It Over. And then the contrast color is Dune from Fiber MacGyver on 100% merino base. The dyer of Yarn Nouveau very wonderfully sent me, I asked about like, what would you recommend for a contrast color? And she had sent me a couple samples of a tan to brownish colorway that she has. And she had paired it with a slightly darker colorway. So it has a little bit more of that dark maroon. And when I swatched for it, it just wasn't high contrast enough for me. So I'm saving that gorgeous skein. The colorway is Finch, to do a hat because I think it is beautiful and a classic fall color. But I'm really happy that I'm going with this cool toned white. I think the stark contrast is really nice, and I do like it a lot. So about 3/4 of the way through the yoke, I want to finish this by November 1st. It's October 3rd, so should have plenty of time to do that. It is taking a back seat, however, because of my Rhinebeck trip that's coming up. Unexpectedly, like I said, I'm going to Rhinebeck, and I really wanted something new to wear in Susie's yarn, Fiber MacGyver yarn, that I could wear over my Fiber MacGyver t-shirt when I'm working at the booth, so you can still see that brand, but then it's a wearable sample. Susie said she wanted me to knit something up in her new base, which I will happily do. And this is 100% Shanko wool, Shaniko. Shanko. I know I'm saying it wrong. I'm assuming I am. American grown wool. I think it's a descendant of merino, or like merino bred with something. It's very soft. It's very bouncy. It is thick with like 2 C's thick. And it's 100% non-superwash. This is the DK base, and I will say it does knit up more like a worsted base. And Susie will also be offering it, I believe, in fingering and sport weight. So I had originally planted, oh God. I originally planned on knitting a different vest. It was cute little button-up cottagecore moment, and just could not get gauge with this yarn. And so ended up doing the good old Ravelry search. I think Stephanie from Edible Thoughts Makes taught me this one, where you can search for a gauge instead of just searching for a pattern by weight. So I searched for 18 to 19 stitches because that was the gauge I was getting, over 4 inches. And I ended up landing on the Gushy Garter Vest by Park Knits. I cast it on last Friday, and I'm already this far through because it is garter stitch. It's super simple construction. You're knitting flat, but there is no purling to be found, which is great. The colorway's name is Marine, and I love the green. Shocked. I know, Emily loves green. This is the same green that I'd used for the Suri for my scarf. I love how there's some spots of depth to the color. It's not completely tonal. There's a little bit of variety to it. And as you can see, it's just like, I wish you could squeeze this. If you come to Rhinebeck, please come find me at the Fiber MacGyver booth, and I will let you squeeze my yarn. So dumb. Anyways, So here it is. It will knit, I'm gonna knit it just to where my hip starts. Actually, I think I'm gonna go more towards my waist because then I can layer it with dresses, skirts, pants, you name it. I think it's gonna be so cute with the dress. And so it finishes by, not with buttons, but with ties. So there'll be little I cords that you tie together in bows. Hello, cute. I'm forcing myself to let go of this idea that a Rhinebeck sweater needs to be technically complex, or it needs to be perfect, or it needs to be a standout sweater. Why am I putting that pressure on myself? I wouldn't for anybody else. However, I do want to maybe zhuzh this up a bit, and I think my plan is to do a crochet edge. The pattern doesn't have any finishing for the arms and the fronts and the sides. So it's just this like super simple, you know, you're just doing your thing. There's not even a slip stitch. So I'm thinking of crocheting an edge. Sorry, I'm picking the dog hair. I'm thinking of crocheting the edge using the yarn the same color so it'll blend in. And then I'm thinking about embroidering this vest. I was flipping through embroidering your knits, or I forget the book name, when I was at Darn Knit, and there's some beautiful sweaters that incorporate embroidery into the finished object. And so how cool would it be to embroider this? I feel like I'm gonna channel my Professor Pearl, my best Professor Pearl. Imagine this, an epic vest with embroidery. I feel like that's something Nicole would say. So I'm playing around the idea of doing some flowers with like pale pinks and purples, keeping it more jewel tone to go with this green, or doing more of a tonal embroidery and using different greens to do flower, or to do more leaves. So like doing monstera leaves, vines. And I actually think that could look really cool because it wouldn't be super obvious, but I think it would add this depth and like extra layer and texture to it that would make this vest like very, very unique. So I'm hoping to finish this vest in the next couple of days so I can block it. And then while I'm on vacation, I have all next week off. I'm going to California to visit my brother. I can tinker around with embroidery and give myself time to embroider it and not rush the embroidery process so I do it the right way. So the Alpine bloom is on hold for a bit, right? Because I can finish that pretty quickly. So I can finish this and then I can work on my Alpine bloom and do embroidery if I want to after blocking and have this ready for Rhinebeck. And I'll just add, it is in a bucket bag that I found at the Dollar Target section, the bullseye section. It's corduroy. It's so cute. I mean, it's very similar to that fabric of the dress that I showed you, but it's nice for just hauling things around because I knit in various places in my house. I'll go outside, upstairs, the couch, so it's easy for hauling. My last whip is a test knit. It is in that crafty little fox ghost project bag. Spooky. And it is, oh, before I show you, look at this. I mean, hello to the knits. It's the Biscuit Slipover by Busy Bee Knits, Bridget Jo, and it is a really lovely slipover that's brioche. And it is a combination, I think, of interesting construction and some seaming work to get a slipover that is kind of a capped sleeve and hits right at your waist. And I can picture so many outfits. Here is the start of mine. This is the first panel, the first front part, and then it's bottom up. So you start it, and then I'll do some shaping, and I don't remember the rest of the construction, but all I know is I love brioche. This is not news to you. You're like, yes, Emily, you said this on the last episode. I have never done one color brioche, and it's just, you just get in a rhythm, and I am at the point now where I've done it enough where I can fix mistakes, that is the most exciting thing to me, is that I feel comfortable enough to better understand the stitch makeup and how to fix my mistakes and to read my stitches. Lots of dog hair in this one. What's new? The story of my life. I'm gonna take a picture when I'm done filming so you can see my view. As I talk about dog hair, you'll know why. I'm using a new base from ZZ Textiles. It's a Shetland Alpaca blend. So it's got a really nice halo to it. It's very light, it's airy. I am knitting a size 5 on 6 needles. So the gauge is pretty open. I think I'm getting about, I think I'm right on pattern gauge, which I think is 18 or 19 stitches an inch, though that might just be sticking, that number sticking in from another pattern. But I started this probably near the same time I started the vest, the gushy vest, and I'm enjoying it. This isn't due until November, so I have a little bit more time. Obviously some things with some deadlines, either self-imposed or a test deadline ahead of me. But this one I find very relaxing and perfect for TV, and I'm excited to wear it, so have no worries about that. I'm so excited for Rhinebeck. I'm so excited for Sacred Sheep. I'm a little overwhelmed with the amount of travel ahead of me. I'm going to be gone all next week visiting my brother in California. Then I come back for 3 days and then I go to Rhinebeck. I'm flying out to Rhinebeck and then I'm driving home with Susie, with Madge, her camper, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so we're going to have like a very fun little road trip home from New York. But then that's more days off of work. And then I'm home. And then I am out November 1st because I'll be in Portland for Sacred Sheep. So West Coast, East. So I was just in DC in September. I'm going to go to California the first full week of October. And then I'm going to New York for Rhinebeck the 17th through the 23rd. And then I'm going to Portland the 31st through the 2nd. And then I go back to DC for work for just a couple of days right before Thanksgiving, which is like, I'm not complaining. I love to travel. I love to fly. I especially love to fly by myself. I have so many fun yarn things ahead of me, and I'm hoping to meet and see some of you at these things. But it's still just like time not at home, time that disrupts schedule, time off of work. We're gearing up for legislative session starting in January. And so there's like lots of things to be done, even though we're in this holding pattern because the election that's happening in November. But it's still, you know, it's adjusting your mindset for like, I'm going to be traveling a lot and that's okay. I also really struggle with not being able to dress based off of my mood and having a wardrobe, a limited wardrobe with me. Like when I was in DC for 8 days, I like to like go upstairs and get dressed based off of my mood in the day and how I'm feeling about my body and in my body. And when you're traveling, obviously that's a little limited, but I'll get over it. Sweater Weather Knit Together is happening. Would you all want to do some sort of Zoom chat or an Instagram live or a YouTube live where I like set it up so I can actually see comments? Let me know. If you're like, nah, people are already doing that, I don't need that, that is fine by me. Just trying to figure out the right way to create community for this and like meet y'all where you're at. Otherwise, like I mentioned, I went to Yarn Over. I didn't take a ton of footage there. I just kind of zoomed in and zoomed out and said hi to all the vendors. I did pick up some yarn from Fiber MacGyver and some beautiful skeins. Strike it, reverse it. Some beautiful roving from Knitty Vet, some naturally dyed fiber with woad and walnuts. I have not done a single natural dyes project with the travel and limited weekends. That has escaped me, so I've been harvesting things and drying them. So I have a stockpile of natural dyes stuff. Maybe I'll give that away one of these podcast episodes, like a mini kit, like some marigolds and cosmos for my garden, and you can try it. It's an idea for the future. What else is new? I went to the Harriet and Alice Dandelion Fiber Co. movie night. They were showing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so they rented a whole movie theater and they kept the lights half up so we could knit, crochet, whatever, and watch the movie together. That was so much fun, and it was at my favorite movie theater that is themed after The Shining. So great. I also went to Darn It Anyways Sheep to Something. It was a weekend thing they had, and there was a vendor market the Saturday, Sunday, and I staffed Teresa's booth on Saturday, Get Bentz, because she had shearing day. And so had a fun time seeing people. I spent the whole day knitting and spinning, so like no complaints. And the Darn It Anyway Maker Lounge is gorgeous. It has such beautiful natural lighting and this very calm, it's all wood and brick. And so I just sat in the natural light in air conditioning because it was 90s that day and loved it. And then the second part of the event was like a competition. There were 2 teams and you had to skirt, process, spin, knit an object, and whoever finished the most, and I think they did like 7 hours, won. And I don't know the outcomes of that, but I just love that idea of being able to do a micro version of a sheep to shawl or sheep to sweater. If you haven't seen it, I did that project last year, a sheep to shawl, over several months, and it's a lot of work, and it gives you a whole new appreciation for folks who do the whole cycle versus like I like to come in at the roving or at the yarn cycle and either spin my own stuff or just purchase finished yarn and make things. I don't think there's much else to share beyond that. Book-wise, I am finishing The God of the Woods right now. I also I'm listening to Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the second book to The House by the Cerulean Sea. It is so cozy and it's thoughtful and talks about issues in society around, fear of the unknown, hatred of those different than you, dabbles in obviously talking about like race and gender and sexual orientation, but does it in a way that is just so lovely. So if you haven't read those books, would recommend. I'm on the second one listening to it, and I'm knitting and listening to it right now, and it is so cozy. It's October, so I want to read spooky books in October. So let me show you my stack of books. I have this book, Murder Road by Simone St. James. She does a lot of paranormal mystery thrillers. So I picked up this one in Book of the Month Club. And then the second one I want to read is Practical Magic. We all know that movie. If you haven't, you should watch it. I didn't really realize it was based off of a book. So I got both of these, and I'm hoping to read both of them in October after I finish The God of the Woods, which is like a big old book. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for sitting with me. I know I was a little squirrely at first and had some sound issues. I dropped these AirPods or I didn't drop them. I washed them in a pocket, but I think they're turning out okay. I put them in rice. They seem to be working okay. If this sounds a little muffled, please forgive me, and hopefully next time it'll be all fixed. I hope to see you in person at Rhinebeck or Sacred Sheep or out about at a brew and knit with you. But I hopefully will film before I head to Rhinebeck. Potentially no guarantees because of all the travel time that I have, and it does take some time to film and edit. Either way, we'll catch up either on Instagram, in person, or the next time I film. So I hope wherever you are well, and I'll catch you next time. hat. So it's a pattern from World War II, and you make one big long tube, and then you tuck it in itself to make it a hat. But the soldiers used to use it as like a scarf or a pillow or a
Scarf as
hat.
well, yeah.
Yeah, but then you can use it as a hat.
That's amazing.
You're too nice.
Oh, that's very nice of you, really.
It's fun.
And I'm so happy to see you doing this. Yeah.
It's a fun place to be.